Guys, this is Tombox, and today we're looking at post-Rage of the Abyss meta staple trends. How are they used? What's the main use differences compared to the previous format? Should we be breaking boards? Well, that's what we're gonna find out here today. And I also printed a bunch of proxies for my friends to use over the past weekend, just so that we can just test out, duke it out, and have a little mini house tourney and just try it out ourselves. It's been kind of eye-opening. I think Snake Eye Azamina, maybe it's not as powerful as you might think. Tenpai probably going to be scarier than you think. It is. Even if they got seriously hit, they're still going to be that menace of a board-breaking deck that's just going to OTK you in one shot. It's really annoying. But anyways, without further ado, we're going to talk about hand traps today. We're going to talk about the hand trap uses and the changes, and we're looking at board breaking. Should we be board breaking? Is board breaking the right way to do it? Well, I think board breaking is the best way to actually play personally, but here we go. So make sure you guys hit the like button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell, and let's take a look at these cards. To kick things off, which are the decks expected to perform? So, of course, there's Azamina Fiendsmith Snake Eye, Azamina Whitewoods or Whitewoods variants. There's the Tenpai Dragon, Fiendsmith Yubel, Fiendsmith Azamina, Chimera, there's Fire Kings, Runics, and Labyrinth decks. Alright, so the first hand trap is going to be Mulcharmy Fuwalos. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a pain because you have to adapt to two cards in two ways. One, adapt with your wallet, and two, you're going to have to adapt to the playstyle. It's essentially maxi minigame reintroduced. Oh, but Tombox is so expensive. What am I supposed to do? Well, apparently you're gonna have to use one of the following methods to kind of save up on your wallet. Number one is case splitting. That's probably the method I'm gonna be using personally, so that's why it's number one. Case splitting is usually easier, especially if you have friends that you can trust, and if you have stuff that you want in the set, then sure, then that's gonna be a little bit more financially responsible, and you discuss that among your friends. It's a little bit easier. 2 to 5 Mulcharmies within a case, probably not out of reach for the most part. Okay, so that's one. Two, you're a hyper competitive player. You already pre-ordered everything before everything spiked up. Oh, congratulations to you. 3, you go to the vendor, you buy the set at the event, and then you sell it back to the vendor, so you kind of rent the card and hope that it went up after the event, which is possible with this card. This card, I don't think it's going to be going down, and vendors are probably more than happy to actually take the card back from you. So consider it as like a way to quote-unquote rent the card, right? I guess finally, the other way is to, I don't know, just ask a friend. I don't know, that's a terrible joke. Okay, so anyways, so that's how you can adapt via your wallet, or you can just wait for the cards to go down after, like YCS Niagara. That's probably one of the choices. I'm not sure if it's going to go down, though, because Mulcharmy is such a commonly played card. Now, let's go into the actual adapting of the strategy of this card. Number one is going to be, I guess, minimizing your lines in the extra. If you get hit by Mulcharmy and you can't stop it, okay, if they throw 2, just stop. You're gonna lose because you're gonna give them 6 to 7 cards, and that's terrible. Sometimes you just have to jump into the end board. And over the past weekend, I did have a match, and that's actually recorded, so I'm gonna be uploading that next week after I'm done doing the editing. But that one, I did eat a Mulcharmy, and yeah, I was playing Snake Eye Azamina, and I had to readapt my lines. It was very, very awkward, and definitely did not go for every single possible option in the extra deck, because if you do go for the extra option, you might give your opponent the end board, the board breakers that they need, and if they get the board breaker, it doesn't matter how far you go. But what are the cards that you should be summoning? One, the 2-for-1 trades. Like Silhouette Hat Rabbit gives you the additional card, deals with the back row, and negates a monster. So that's like a pretty decent one. So you can, even if you give them one card, you can at least trade properly. Another one would be an Omni Negate, because there are cards that are hard once per turn. If you negate those, they don't really have too much of an option to kind of play another copy, which is kind of what you're aiming for, or like limited cards within the ban list. That makes it a lot easier too. And yeah, just try to contain it. Sometimes you just have to go for a turn skip. Just judge your hand. If you have 2 to 3 disruption yourself, your opponent's down 1 card, you can pass turn. The only one that's like super dangerous to pass turn to is, of course, Tenpai, because Tenpai is going to be shoving 3 Perulias, 3 Fuwaloses together, and they're just going to be like just firing it off like non-stop at you, and hopefully you skip your turn. I think they're just aiming for like the weaker end board and crack your board anyway, and since they're playing board breakers, you can expect that they're going to be the ones drawing into those board breakers or those key starters that they may or may not be missing. So yeah, that's another, I guess, point of adapting. But other points of adaptation, number one, Ash Blossom, Joy Spring. When you side them out previously in like games 2 and 3, you're going like second, or where you're forced to go first, then you have to keep it in anyway now. because it has the added responsibility of stopping the Mulcharmy stuff and winning that little maxing minigame in the front. Another card to adapt into your deck has to be Crossout Designator. I just have a copy right here. So Crossout Designator is probably your best bet because your deck building right now seems to overlap with the Imperm and the Ash and the Fuwalos. So just that alone is going to be very, very strong. Not to mention mirror matches in those cases where you can kind of get an upper hand against someone just because they play the same card as you. Very impactful, likely going to be a bit of a mainstay. And if you also include like Nibiru in there, you're got a bit of a 4-card overlap, which provides you with a little bit of insurance when dealing with hand traps. So that's one way. And since Mulcharmy is just such a fast card anyway, there's not much you can do about it. And finally, there's one more card for adapting as Drone Lockbird. We've seen in OCG that they have adapted Drone Lockbird into the main deck, and sometimes they draw themselves just so that the opponent doesn't draw cards, and they play around draw. If you're a deck that can play around draw, you know your own draw lines. Not only are you drawing your opponent, you're drawing yourself so that you can build an end board, and if they leave on 4 cards and you still build like 4 disruption, it's still okay to eat the Mulcharmy, maybe give him 1 card, but at the very least, you're not giving them like 8 cards to play with and just Droplet, Lightning Storm, and then build a board, kill you. That's not what you're aiming for. So sometimes you just have to accept that you have to skip your turn as long as you have the right card to, make a follow-up. So, and that's how you can adapt it for a Fuwalos. Now, another hand trap that might see a lot more play coming up, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. If you look at the top 4 decks that were mentioned, we have Azumina Fiendsmith Snake Eye, we have Whitewoods, we have Tenpai, and we also have Yubel. Let's start looking at Tenpai. Tenpai, of course, has the 1 of field spell, so if they activate their field spell, you can just blow it up. Not much they can do about it, and now you don't have to deal with the double damage, and you get to play among the main phase if they're forced to activate the card. The other thing is you can use it during the battle phase when they're attempting to synchro, so you can use Ghost Ogre plus another hand trap to stop both synchroings of 2 monsters, and you can effectively just end their entire battle phase in that regard. So those are some of the dangers that they have to face. And synchroing during, say, the main phase going to Biden Dragon, they risk losing their Biden Dragon because you can Ghost Ogre at that time, and they can't chain their monsters to synchro it off. So there's a little bit of a limitation there. So that's why Ghost Ogre is effective within the Tenpai matchup. But what about the other ones? What about Azumina, Snake Eye, Fiendsmith? What's so good about that one? It's definitely not for the Fiendsmith cards, unless you're using the Ghost Ogre on the Fiendsmith Desiree when it activates, because if you destroy it and therefore the equip blows up with it, you don't actually get any negations because it doesn't have any equip link rating for you to use, so you can actually effectively cancel the negation of Fiendsmith Desiree, which is actually a pretty big part of it. The other thing would be the Sinful Spoil Deception, or Deception of the Sinful Spoils. That card, you can, when they activate, pay the cost, you can blow it up. Go figure, and then they don't get the card, and yeah, it's like just super heavy minus. So yeah, it's a really good trade on that one as well. And I guess one additional adapting part would be like even the existing like Divine Temple, the Snake Eyes, if they activate to push the monster up, you can blow it up right away. Another option for you. And I think it's also very effective against IP Masquerena, just because you can chain to IP Masquerade and blow it up so that they don't get that Link Summon, which can also prevent you from getting hit by SP and also blowing up SP. So there's just like a lot of things that you can actually just tack it on. So I feel like that card, if you know how to use that card properly, it will be very effective. Whitewoods, you can blow up their toy box, and like Yubel, you can take out their Nightmare Pains. There's just uses for this card in most of these like top deck scenarios. So for summon hand traps moving forward from the previous format, it's got to be Nibiru, and it's also got to be the Bystials. Nibiru is kind of a given with Appaloosa gone. There's just nothing really stopping it aside from Phantom, Yubel, and any deck that can get those Omni Negates, such as Ilia Silva from the Azumina, and some people might just play through it. So what about those Omni Negates? It still requires 2 hand traps. Yeah, you're gonna need a Veiler or an Imperm, and then you just hit them with a Nibiru, because these are both like tribute based, like they remove themselves off of the field type negation. You're just gonna have to preemptively hit them with the card, and then in a new chain throw a Nibiru. That's how it's always been. It's never been like invincible. Second thing is, what about the Bystials? Well, you've got Azumina, you've got the Yubel, and you got Fiendsmith. What about the Azumina stuff? Well, during like a low cost combo of like the Asmina Snake Eye combo, they're going to put like Mulcharmy into the graveyard, and when they try to activate Hallowed Asmina to kind of shuffle it back, or before they do that, you can just activate one of your Bystials to get rid of that card. And once you get rid of that card, it's gone. Of course, Fiendsmith is pretty easy. Just get rid of the Engraver for the most part. And for you, Bell, I think that one's like a no-brainer. Just hit whatever that's necessary from like the Lord Yamas and from the stuff in the extra deck, or just from stuff that's given the additional summon, like the Grave Squirmers. Like, it's still very good, and giving you that additional body puts them on the back pedal. So it's likely another card that can move forward. So not too much of change overall when it comes to the format. And for board breakers, to keep it short, the big four: Evenly Match, Book of Eclipse, Forbidden Droplet, and Dark Ruler No More. These are mass monster negations and just mass board wipes. They're all just very good. You can even play simple copies of Raigeki, but keep in mind that there are decks that have one negation, but it's just best to play the ones that aren't once per turn. From what I've realized recently is that using control stealing cards have not been as effective because of the opponent's ability to chain to targeted cards, which is why triple tactics, thrust, and talent have been a lot more effective at getting you the proper follow-up. Evenly Match, I think we've seen in Yassine's feature match in YCS Lily in his top 4. Congratulations, but that was like a monster wipe. It's because sometimes you just can't adapt into the Omni Negate, or they have something for the Omni Negate and they follow with the Evenly, and it's just that much more powerful now. It's just very difficult to deal with these kinds of boards, but these other decks that are committing into it, so sometimes you have to play stuff like Solemn Judgment, and I am contemplating Solemn Judgment in certain decks in the side deck. Now that we can't do the Beatrice control, like you go for like the whole Beatrice, put a floodgate out and then lock them out, but the way that people are trying to readapt to that is they play triple tactics, thrust into the floodgate cards, such as the D barrier. They thrust into the DDG. They play that, and just so that they can skip the opponent's turn back. And you know what? It makes a lot of sense because that's how you maintain control. And it is what it is. But in regards to like board breaking, of course, Droplet, Book of Eclipse. Book of Eclipse is just still one of my favorites because you can chain to something. Like, that's one of the ways you can answer to the Omni Negate potential of, say, whatchamacallit, the Fiendsmith Deseret. You activate Raigeki, and then they're gonna attempt to negate it, and then you chain Book of Eclipse, wiping everything down, and then destroying all the monsters anyway. So that's one of the best ways that you can kind of use it. And Dark Ruler No More is just kind of self-explanatory. It's just Dark Ruler No More. You just get to play with an empty board, essentially giving up your battle phase, but it is still very effective if you can maintain control and make them, if they've committed the resources. If they can't play through it on the clapback, then you get to take control and win the game. That's all I got for this one, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that thumbs up and hit subscribe, ding that notification bell, and check out MSTmerch.com. We got new stuff coming up, new colors coming up, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. Looking forward to it. And if you guys want to see some textured sleeves, yes, we're expanding our line even further. Then you got something to look forward to in the upcoming week. So I'll see you guys very soon at YCS Niagara, and hopefully you guys have a wonderful day.